All right, guys, good morning. Good morning. Welcome aboard to the Morning Note. My name is Carlos Garcia, founder and CEO of GAR Capital. It is Friday, October 28th, 2022. A Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. Let's go ahead and rock and roll here on the Bloomberg terminal. Let's go ahead and swap it up to the platform. Oop. I hate when this happens. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and go around the horn to get us started. Do you know there's one thing I did want to switch up on the morning note? I'm going to talk to marketing about it or tech team. Is that I'm a big fan of Pardon the Interruption. It's on sports on ESPN. So what they would have is a rundown of kind of like all the categories of what we're going to talk about, like the topics, and then you'll get like a minute or 2 minutes to talk about it. I think that's something that I'm really interested in because sometimes I may ramble on a lot. That just normally happens. I get really into this stuff, especially with economics and the stock market. Totally my thing. That's why you're here. So again, let me kind of work on that. It'd be kind of cool. Maybe get some interviews for more videos on YouTube. It's trying to see the other side other than just what I see. That's always important, by the way. And again, my opinions are my opinions. Don't think that the team doesn't have their own. Of course, we go back and forth every day. Me and the team in our group chat for work. We work remotely, so again, we're always talking about the markets and trying to see where things are heading towards the future. Political, geopolitical, economics, the stock market, assets, investing. That's pretty much what we do every day. Talk about it. So again, it's interesting to always get perspective. So that's why this is for you guys. This is why you have the chat room open. This is why we're live, so you can ask in real time your questions. It's super important to ask them. Again, you can always comment below as well. Here to help in any way I can. Let's go. Dow futures up 50 points this morning. Nasdaq futures down 0.74 after Amazon's meltdown, like Meta did. Apple, interesting enough, flat. We'll go over that here in a second. S&P futures down 0.35%. Thank you, Amazon, for that hit. How about the Russell? 0.34% to the upside, 1816. I did add a Russell position yesterday. So again, I expect us to go higher on the Russell. Let's see if we can get back to around that 1840 level for that breakout. But again, I am holding calls on it. Let's go ahead and put that alert around 1840.60. They have been outperforming the mega caps. You're starting to see some kind of rotation. Carlos, how is it that Microsoft, Google, Metaverse, and Amazon all had crappy quarters? If I told you those stocks would be down on average 12 to 15%, again, on the aggregate divided by four, if I told you each of those names were down 15% after hours, you got to say the S&P has got to be tanking 2-3%, right? The Dow will be below 30,000, right? Well, granted, only Apple would be part of that, Microsoft part of that. But again, and the NASDAQ as well. You would think we're killing support, we're slicing through support. This is what happens usually at the bottoms, I've noticed. You get those generals shot. Okay, now we have the next checklist. Okay, inflation's high, a hawkish Fed, consumers slowing down. We saw that with Amazon, 2 prime days, still not enough. But North American sales did beat. But again, we're going through the checklist, inflation high, gas prices, okay, coming down a little bit. We know that there's still war in Ukraine. We do know we have a hawkish Fed who has a very hawkish, tightening monetary policy path that they've set for us. Yields multi-decade highs. Let's check that. How about the dollar? Multi-decade highs. Europe is in shambles with their economy. China not doing great. I mean, let's go down the checklist. We'll just add another one on the checklist there. Earnings decrease. Remember, we talked about that. We had a low bar for earnings. We didn't expect much due to that dollar. The dollar being super key. Again, multi-decade highs on the dollar. So again, just adding to the list of things that are terrible in the world and how screwed we're going to be. And oh, I forget, nuclear war, possibly, check. I mean, we have the list and we're down 0.22 on the S&P. We're still above 3,800. Why? Why are we still above 3,800? Carlos, that doesn't make sense. We should be to zero. We should have 2008 meltdown. Carlos, are you crazy? Are you talking about bottoms? Are you insane? Russell 2000 is doing okay. That's bouncing. We saw that already with the Russell. Energy had a great quarter. I mean, yeah, ExxonMobil missed on revenue, but I mean, their stocks are up as well. Let me go ahead and pivot that to the pre-market movers. Chevron, and I sold Chevron right around 175. I took some profits, and again, I was long Chevron. I gave the investment club members options on Chevron if they wanted to hold or not. But look at the leaders so far. We'll pivot to that. But look at Chevron up about 1.74% this morning. We can go to the S&P. We should get ExxonMobil up 2%. And that's a miss on revenue. What you're getting is a change of leadership. So let's go ahead and go to year-to-date performance on the S&P, and we'll go back around the horn. So again, we are in a bear market. We know all the inflation data. We know in regards to the Fed what they're thinking. Meta had a crappy quarter. Google bad quarter. Amazon bad quarter. Tesla bad quarter. I guess in terms of the stock. Microsoft bad quarter in terms of the stock. We're just talking reactions. And Apple chugging along green for the day pre-market. But look at energy, healthcare, insurance, aerospace. I mean, we could go ahead and add that for more investment to space and telecom. Remember we talked about Verizon, AT&T. I wouldn't be in those stocks. Why? T-Mobile is actually investing in their growth, in their customer base. Verizon, AT&T keep raising fees. All those fees you pay for Verizon, AT&T, yeah, good infrastructure, but that's going to the dividend. That's it. Dividend is so high. It's such a high part of their business and their P&L. They have to pay that high yield. If not, no one's going to buy the stock, at least at this valuation or at this level. So again, T-Mobile does not offer a dividend. They reinvested into to the customer, and that's why their subscriber base is growing. So again, kind of a different mindset for these companies. I wouldn't be surprised with a continuation of this kind of downward trend for Verizon, AT&T. AT&T, we know they spun off assets. Verizon is kind of holding on to cash for the possible, but we are in recession. But again, Verizon, AT&T, not the best here. Again, that's value too. But again, look at the names that are up this year. Energy, we've been talking about energy since 2021. And again, they're extremely cheap. The problem is that do you want to chase up 76% on an ExxonMobil year to date? That's why I got out of Chevron. So again, I have no problem owning it, obviously. But again, I did it as a swing trade, trying to get some profit. And I think I sold right around 172. I have to take a look. Let's take a look here quickly. I'll give you the exact figure when I sold Chevron. Chevron. Let's see. That's a TLT position we sold. If I can find that Chevron. Okay, 173.21. It was the gap fill. That's exactly when we got out. Again, now you're about $7 higher, $8 higher. So again, if you held and you're an investment club, awesome. That's great news. Again, you can always take profit when you like. Let's go ahead and take a look at crude oil. Pivot to that. Crude oil is up 1%, down 1% this morning, even with energy stocks doing excellent. Gasoline futures down 1.33%. Gold futures down another 1%, 1650 an ounce, 1931 for silver. And then we have euro dollar back below parity, 99.86, up 22 pips, 147.49 yen. Let's see, the pound, 115.72. That is up as well. Dollar yen is up for the dollar being higher. Bitcoin is down 2%, dollar being higher, 20,000 level is where we're holding, 1523 for Ethereum, down 2.75%. Let's go to the 10-year as we keep going. Gap up, but still hovering around 4%. That's okay, not the worst thing in the world. I think that's why that's why the Dow is up. Look at the dollar, nice rejection after that PCE number. We got to go over that PCE number. We talked about that. That's something that the Fed looks at in terms of their inflation. That actually met expectations. So again, the dollar coming down a little bit. We're starting to get a little more optimism now for a possible 50 basis point hike in November. I doubt that happens. The traders are implying about a 15% chance. It'll be a 50 instead of a 75. Again, I priced in already 75 for the next 2 months, November, December. If we can get a 50 in November, my goodness, another kind of a Bank of Canada surprise. We said this, once you start pricing in Armageddon, the worst case scenario, any little bit of hope, you're going to soar. And that's what we have been doing. Take a look at the Dow, guys. The Dow on the daily. Again, these are 30 companies. It's weighted, I know. But hey, man, we're getting closer now to the 200 MA. And that's a key level. That's a level we were looking for the S&P. So now in our minds we're thinking to ourselves, is the market just more than tech, mega cap tech? Are we getting rotation out of that? And here's my take on it, and then we'll answer some questions. Every decade, you have there's charts. I have to look for it, but there's charts showing you the different leaders in market cap. Again, throughout the decades. In the 70s, Ma Bell, which is Southern Bell, it's the telephone company that was big. Railroads. I mean, thick monopoly. Energy companies. Exxon for decades was the number one heaviest weighted market cap in the 80s. And in the 90s, it started shifting towards the late. You had early 2000s, you had Cisco, Microsoft, new players into the arena. Cisco's still around. Microsoft, we know, is still around. It's number two. But again, back then, Microsoft was number one for a while too. And then it switched to Apple. And then we had new leadership. Nvidia was knocking on the door. Metaverse was top five. Tesla is a new one on board. Again, all of these are tech companies. These are the heaviest in market cap, like how expensive or how much they're worth in a sense. So again, don't be surprised you get those names kind of pulling back and you get some new names. The one name I like in the future, and again, I've been pounding the table on it, is UNH, United Healthcare. As the aging population increases, we know how important our healthcare infrastructure is. We just had a pandemic. That's the name I like. I love UNH long term, and that's the heaviest weighted stock on the Dow. That's why I'm bringing it up. And you could see we're starting to get to a level where we might just break out here. Again, these are, I think, all-time highs, 548. I've been a shareholder now for a while in the 200s. So I do love the name. I'm not selling it, but again, just letting you know, you don't have to buy it if you don't want to. But again, this is a name that is something to watch. Let's go back to the Dow again. These are Dow futures 200 MA. If we can get above that, that will say a lot about this market. That we're kind of shrugging off, Amazon, Meta, we don't care. We'll just get rid of it. I mean, not get rid of it, but we'll move past it. Now the Nasdaq is obviously taking a hit with that. They're still big in the Nasdaq, but again, the Dow names, the value names, we're getting that rotation out. It's not just straight to cash. It's not liquidation. You're seeing rotation now. That's what I see. Long and winded talk. Let's answer some questions. Would today be a day to buy SPY? Should I wait? I buy SPY G every Thursday. Every Thursday I buy it. I don't think about it. I just buy it. And I just been accumulating over time. If you want to just dollar cost average it, you could start it today. You could start it next week, next month. I wouldn't worry about the price as much as just kind of getting started. It's kind of like shopping for workout clothes when you've never worked out before. Just go to the gym and then you'll figure out your wardrobe later. You'll look fly later. So I wouldn't focus on the price you're getting in at this juncture because I may say it's a bottom, but it may not be a bottom either. If you're comfortable of buying here, sure. But again, I did. So again, I can only tell you what I'm doing. Day trading 101. What do you make of Apple's quarter? Would you say it's much better than other companies that reported this week? I think Apple's in its own kind of universe. It's the heaviest weighted stock on the S&P. It's my biggest holding, of course, so pardon me for a little bias, but I think the quarter was fine, but the bar was very low. So again, the fact that they made, I remember I wrote that, $80 billion in profit or something outrageous like that in a quarter. Let's see here. I have it here. Apple. Apple had $20 billion in profit in one quarter. And that is absolutely outrageous how much money they make. And I think a lot of analysts on the street are kind of looking at Apple as something than just a tech company, just a phone company. They have something that a Coca-Cola actually benefits from. It's brand awareness, brand loyalty. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. You can ask Tesla if it works, it does. You can ask Starbucks if it works. I guess you could call it that. But again, the brand awareness, the ecosystem, the brand loyalty, it's so strong. It's hard to quantify and monetize. It's not something on a balance sheet other than reoccurring revenue or reoccurring customers. Services revenue came in softer than expected. iPhone sales, I think we kind of expected that as well. This is why I think the stock is kind of at a neutral place. I wouldn't be surprised if Apple breaks 150 today because now we're starting to kind of digest these numbers and these earnings. We just got some more earnings this morning from other sectors like energy. But again, this earnings report, I mean, the profit was up, revenue beat, everything across the board except on certain things. Mac was a beat as well. You're really just holding Apple now. I mean, if you're in an ETF, more than likely you own it anyways. You're pretty much just stuck with it because you really can't get away from the reach of an Apple. I think the quarter was okay. I mean, I guess you can give it a B minus, C grade. And in this market, man, that might be enough when everyone is really betting on literally the last standing general of the mega cap names. The stock is only down about 17% from the highs, way better than the average Nasdaq stock, and of course, doing way better than the other FANG names, if you want to call it. Throw in Netflix in there, obviously. But yes, I think the quarter was okay. I think we get to 150 today. Oof, yeah, I think probably 150 today. I'll just say it. I'm not going to trade it, but I'll say 150 today, or at least 149.63 today. Let's see if it holds that 200 MA on the hourly. What do you think about BNTX? Okay, we'll take the last question here. BNTX Biotech. I don't know much about them in terms of fundamentals, but we can go ahead and take a look at the chart. And again, it looks very similar to your Babas, your upstarts, Teledocs. I think this is what happens after the 2020 pandemic boom, let's just call it. Kind of holding that support of around 120. I guess if that's where you want to start buying, go ahead. I don't know anything about them, but just on a technical basis, 120 is your support. Maybe place a limit order there and see, I mean, how else low could it go in at least on a technical basis? And you do have a little more. So 120 being that support, I mean, if you buy here, that's kind of your stop. That's really the only place you can kind of cut it off. If not, then you're going to start testing some 2020 lows. And again, I don't know much about them personally. In terms of biotech stocks, I do like Merck. I guess you want to call that biotech pharma. They hit a new all-time high as well. So again, another value play, another Dow component, kind of like, kind of getting back to fundamentals, back to the basics, back to the guys who make money, create things, actually return money to shareholders. That seems to be, hey, I want to buy. I don't want to buy anything risky, but I want to buy. And we're seeing that even with the NYSE breadth, the advancers versus decliners. I think the liquidation phase is over. That fear is over. The fact that I'm seeing the Dow futures near the 200 moving average on the daily is telling me that we're just getting rotation now. That's still better than liquidation. That's still better than, oh my God, the world's over. Take a look at the equal weight S&P. We're just making all S&P 500 stocks equal weight. We are now above the 50 MA on the daily. S&P is near that, but we rejected it. That's that move right there. That's all mega cap. That's Amazon, Meta, Google, and Microsoft and Apple as well, obviously. But we rejected the 50-day. We are now 138.78. We are now above the 100-day moving average on an equal weight basis. S&P 500. Look at this gap to fill at 139.78. Do we break that? Could we break that? Because we have more gaps to the upside. So I think the bullish narrative, I think, is starting to take hold. People are starting to nibble, obviously, on value. We'll see where we go from there. Thoughts on Zim dividends? Say Zim stock. Let me look at that. Their dividend's 116.36. No, I would not touch that. No, if it's too good to be true, my man, it almost always is. Names like that just remind me of something called dry ships, DRYS. If you guys are OG traders from back in 2014, 2015, you guys remember dry ships. Kind of the same deal. They just reverse split it every single week at that point. But again, I would not trust that dividend. Don't get trapped with those dividends. I mean, could you pay, as if you were a business owner, 118% dividend? Probably not. I don't think many companies would survive that way. It's subprime lending. That's all it is. That's like triple C bonds there. So again, yeah, risky. We know the drill. Roll the dice. But at the end of the day, I would not be putting my capital there. Have a great rest of your weekend, guys. Go Cowboys this weekend. Cowboys play on Sunday against the Bears. We'll catch you guys on Monday for the morning notes. Have a great rest of your weekend. Cheers.